everybody for participating. Thank everybody for participating today. The purpose of today's meeting is to do a quick review of our indicator requirements, review and discuss the data from baseline to now, and determine whether we have made progress or had slippage. And finally, we're going to review our current improvement strategies, share new ideas, and of course, gather your input. To ground us in our purpose here today, I'm not going to go into too much of a history. You can go to the next slide. But since 1975, our Individuals with Disabilities Education Act has gone through multiple reauthorizations, with the last one being in 2004. The reauthorization in 2004, we say IDEA 2004, and it stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act. Can we go to the next slide? Am I controlling it? I don't even know. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the improvement is because there was an emphasis, there began the emphasis of raising expectations and improving outcomes. In this reauthorization, Congress increased the focus on accountability by emphasizing important things that are important today, still today, emphasizing reading, early intervention, and back then they said research-based practices and instruction. Now we know that it's evidence-based practices, and emphasis on qualified personnel as well for students with IEPs. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to monitoring and compliance. So Brikenna White, our administrator in the monitoring and compliance branch, head of the IDEA team. She's going to provide an overview of U.S. Department of Education Office of Special Ed Programs State Performance Plan and Annual Performance Report. All right, take it away, Brikenna.
Thank you, Director Canio. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, good morning. Amanda, could we go on to the next slide, please? I know you're multitasking, so I appreciate you multitasking today. And I appreciate everyone's patience this morning as Amanda is placing us in the your desired groups. So like Helen said, my name is Brikenna White. For those who do not know me, we're with the monitoring and compliance. And I just cannot thank you enough for you folks being here today to have discussions and review our performance and figure out how we can move forward and improve outcomes for our students with disabilities. So every year, the Hawaii State Department of Education and any other states in the nation, we are required to report to the federal government a state performance plan, annual performance report, which is composed of 17 indicators. Basically, what we do is we gather the data on a yearly basis, we analyze it, we meet with our internal and external educational community partners, and then we determine where we are related to performance. Did we make progress on our targets? Did we have slippage? What do we need to do? What are strategies as we move forward to improve outcomes for our students with disabilities? For this year, the state performance plan, annual performance report, we will refer to it as SPP APR as we move forward in this presentation. After today's presentation, we will analyze your feedback and the data, then we will document that in our reports, and we will submit our report before February 1. So essentially, this is over a 100-page document, And the purpose of this document is to show the federal government, more specifically the Office of Special Education Programs, or as we call it, OSEP, of how Hawaii is doing with our efforts to implement IDEA and our own HAR, Hawaii Administrative Rules, Chapter 60. So as we go through the presentation today, and as you are in your small groups today, please be mindful of the focus of gathering this data is to improve outcomes for our students with disabilities, as well as engage our parents and our community partners in the education of our students. If you can go to the next one, Amanda. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, the SPP APR document is composed of 17 indicators. And as you see on this slide, those 17 indicators are dedicated to results indicators and compliance indicators, and they are done on purpose from the federal government. So the light blue in here, it refers to the results indicators, and the dark blue refer to the compliance indicators. And just the basic definition and the what is a compliance indicator, what is a results indicator. Compliance is embedded within all of the 17 indicators. Those are the procedures, the provisions of IDEA, and that are embedded. Results, that we're talking more about beyond compliance, of how we actually develop effective programs for our students based on their needs and their preferences, interests, and their strengths. Basically, as you go through these, we just wanted to kind of let you know how the federal government divides them. Now, Amanda, if you go on to the next slide. So how does the Office of Special Education Programs hold states accountable? So they, as I mentioned in the previous slide, they hold us accountable based on both compliance. Are we actually meeting the requirements of IDEA? And also the results, are we actually improving? Does our data shows improvement over time? So basically, in making each state's determination whether we are meeting the requirements of IDEA, OSEP uses this results-driven accountability matrix that I thank you so much, Susan and Amanda, for making this awesome, developing this awesome infographic you see on this slide. And we call this RDA matrix, results-driven accountability. This results-driven accountability and how they measure our efforts towards implementation of IDEA includes a variety of data, elements of both the compliance and results. That is it for this slide. If we can go on to the next slide, my dear Amanda, thank you so much. Okay, my friends. So in 2023, we received our determination for our SPP APR that our state submitted in February 1 of last year. And then in June, the Office of Special Education Programs gave us a grade, or a determination, we call it. And in order for a state to meet the requirements of IDEA, a state must be at 80% or above on the measurement of compliance and results. For our state, as you can see, and thank you, Lori, for putting that on the chat. As you can see, for our state, we fell at, we fell at about 63.75%, so rounded up to 64%. So that puts our state in needs assistance category. So that's where we are, but I did want you to take a little bit of time to take a look at this results-driven accountability matrix and see where we're doing well and where we actually need some areas of improvement. Let's take maybe about a couple of minutes or so. And Amanda, if you can do me a favor and click on the link so they can see the results-driven accountability matrix, that would be fantastic. Okay, and if you can just blow it up a little bit more for us. Awesome, awesome. So as you can see, the federal government is grading us both on 50% on compliance and 50% on results. And what do you notice? Where are we not doing well? Are we doing well on compliance? Are we doing well on results? You can chat it out or blur it out. It's up to you.
Melissa Johnson has raised her hand.
Okay, Melissa?
Oh, on the previous screen, I just had a question as far as, it has needs intervention, like the different categories. What kind of assistance or intervention, like depending on what category you're in, do they give?
Oh, that's a really, really good question, Melissa. So depending on the categories that we are, the federal government provides professional development and technical assistance. So if a state, I'm going to just kind of focus on where we are. We are in needs assistance. What that means is that the Office of Special Education Programs has required the Department of Education, which would be us, to reach out to OSEP-approved TA providers and professional development that we receive from them in the areas of improvement. For example, as you scroll down, Amanda, on the next page of the RDA matrix, you will notice that we are struggling with the transition page of the IEP. Scroll down a little bit more, which would be indicator 13. Since we have been in needs of assistance, Lori K. Morimoto and Heather Chapman, they have been working with TA providers from OSEP to improve our outcomes. So that would be an example of what the technical assistance and the supports that the Office of Special Education Programs provides to states, depending on what category they fall for their determination. Thank you, Melissa. That's a really good question. Okay, so as we can see, we are doing okay on compliance with the exception of the secondary transition. And then one more time, Amanda, if you could do me a favor and scroll up to page 1. On page 1, you will see that those are the results indicators, which would be participation and performance on statewide assessments. So they grade us on our participation of 4th and 8th grade students on the statewide assessments, and this actually measures all of the participation of our students with IEPs, including students with severe cognitive disabilities. And as you can see, we received 1 out of 2. In order for a state to meet the requirements, you have to be receiving a score of 2. So as you can see, we have a score of 1 on participation on statewide assessments, which would be SBA for our state, and we have scores of 0 for the NAEP, participating and proficiency in the NAEP. So we do recognize that these are some areas of improvement for our state. If you scroll down one more time, Amanda, there are 2 more elements, results elements that we call them, which would be your percentage of children with IEPs who dropped out, so the dropout rates. We received 1 out of 2 in that score. And for our percentage of students with IEPs who graduate with a regular diploma, that's what they measure for indicator 1, we got 0 out of 2. Let me tell you how they actually compare us. So basically these 2 results indicators, which would be indicator 1 and 2, dropout rates and graduation, they measure us as we compare to the nation, and that's how you can see these scores. Thank you so much, Amanda. Let's go on to the next slide. And some of you may ask, how do we compare to the nation? So basically, we were 1 out of the 29 states and entities to receive needs assistance category on our determination for how we implement the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act in our state. And Lori, if you can put a link on that chat for folks so they can have it and take a look, that would be awesome. And Amanda, if you could go on to the next slide. Okay, my friends, so I cannot stress enough the importance of you folks providing feedback and your input on how we can improve on each of these indicators that we have selected for you folks today. So your mission today in each of your small groups would be to review and understand what each of these indicators that we are actually presenting today, look at the data and figure out did we make progress or did we slip? And based on this, either made progress or we did not make any progress, then determine whether the targets that we have developed and created are appropriate or whether they need to be revised. So you may ask questions such as, is the targets achievable? Are they rigorous? Could we actually modify them if we need to? Remember, says some targets that are set by Office of Special Education Programs, they cannot be changed, and your facilitators will let you know. For example, indicator 13 targets, they are set by the Office of Special Education Programs at 100%. Therefore, you folks cannot mess with that target, but you can determine and discuss what strategies of improvements that will help our department and our schools to improve outcomes on transition planning. And of course, have ideas. You will have a note taker in each of your groups. You'll have facilitators in each of your groups. And really, you have small groups, so take your time. You have an hour to do this together. And after you are done, you then will come back to the large group and give us some highlights on sharing out on, what you noticed, what your discussions were about, and how we can, what may be some highlights of your strategies for improvements. Amanda will now separate you into groups, and then we'll see you folks pretty soon in about an hour. Thank you so much.
Rick, okay, so yes, let me take you off of the spotlight, Miss Break. Where are you? There it is, remove spotlight, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the breakout rooms. It should automatically assign you. If you are still left in the room, that means you didn't get assigned, and I can easily do that for you. If you find that you're in the wrong room, come back to this main room. I can reassign you. And if you are a recorder or someone that's going to record the Zoom to your local computer, you should have that permission. If not, come back to the main room and I can make sure you have that permission. Okay? All right. Breakout rooms. Yep.
Quick, and can we all the links that were shared, can those be included on the meeting notes, or can those be emailed to us in some way, please?
Yes, I did email you this morning, folks, with the DOE and the SEAC websites. So you can go to either the DOE, go to special education, you go down to SSP, or go to the SEAC website. There's actually a tab there, and I'll drop them into the chat here real quick for you. But you can then get all the infographics, all of the feedback forms, all of the data that was provided, as well as a copy of the slides. So let me actually,
and all of the links, like Amanda said, they are in your PowerPoints, they are in our website, and Amanda and Melissa, reach out to us if you don't see something. Yeah.
Yep. Here's the DOEs. Let me grab SEACs here real quick. I'll drop them in so that you can drop and go or click on them, and then they'll open up a window for you. Paste that one. There they go. Okay. So if you need to click on one of those, they both have the same information for you. And that'll open up a new tab in your window. That way you have access to everything. And I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms. So you should see a little thingy on your screen pop up. Yep, I see folks are going. I'll be here in the main room if you need anything.
And really making good decisions about what is appropriate for the child at this point in time, and realizing that talking about an environment for the child really should not be a static thing, that as the child begins to develop and it gains, thinking about when is it appropriate for them to really be around their peers and learning from the peers, because we understand how important that is, but also being sensitive and respectful of parent decisions and parent input, and what they have to say about that and keeping them a part of the conversation. For our team, Rosie or Kawi, is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, we had a great discussion around the preschool environments, and hearing from multiple people, you know, that we can strengthen our working with families and explaining all the options of environments that are available for our students. I'm complete.
No, I had nothing new to add other than, you know, where all the parent information came from. It's me. I think I was the only parent represented in there. So I had a lot to say, especially around FCILs. If you guys know, family child centers where parents learn together with their child. And so I got a little tip on how we could maybe impact that. We meaning the PTI. So I might have to write a letter, but I mean, I'm just looking at all these environments and how enriching it is, especially with those family-centered child learning sites, you know, when parents are learning alongside their children. It could be a form of transitioning, especially if they're transitioning into kindergarten, you know, one day. So that's all I had to say.
Fantastic. Anybody else comments on group 3, that's preschool environments and preschool outcome? Nope. Okie dokie. Moving on to group 4. This is the parent involvement survey. And Stephen is going to take the lead on this.
I am. Thank you. So first off, good news on the parent survey, which is there has been a work group to create a Hawaii specific parent survey. Only 11 questions, shorter the better. I think that in itself will help improve our return rates, which is the next piece, which is we have a very low return rate, less than 10%. So we did spend a lot of time looking at strategies that we could use to increase the return rate for parents. So some of the ideas on how to increase return rates was to place a QR code on the back of the PSN and information obtain on how to obtain a paper copy. So again, how can we make the survey more available? Let's see. We have translating into more languages and having that available via a link. Messaging. So how could we help schools across the state share the same message about the importance of filling out the parent survey? Kind of like a media campaign. Maybe the message would be different for different school, you know, like elementary or high school. The message might be a bit different there. Let's see, email notifications to parents with a link to the survey. So that to go out maybe more than one time. And then one of the suggestions was that maybe in ECSSS, there be a checkbox indicating the survey was provided to parents, maybe as a accountability piece there. Let's see, but definitely the importance of increasing the participation rate. Anyone from my group would like to add on to that? Jasmine?
I think something that came up that I thought was really interesting is I think Jennifer brought up that it's not just about translating it into different languages, but what about our, you know, our parents who might have difficulty with just reading? Is there a way that you can go online and have the survey read to whoever's taking it. You know, and have it in larger print or what have you. So other means than just different languages.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good suggestion. Another one was talking about a building community. You know, it's pretty sad, first of all, that we get less than 10% parent surveys completed, fill out. That's a really low number. But then the highest number of participants come from the K through 5th grade level. And once you're out of elementary school, things are not looking good, right? It's less participation by parents. So how do you continue that community that elementary schools provide? How do you continue that in the middle school and the high school to make parents feel welcome? To, you know, because a lot of the messages we get, I know I got it as my kids were getting older, is, oh, your kids are getting older. They need to learn more responsibility. They have to, you know, learn how to do these things on their own. And you kind of feel that pushing away of parent involvement at the, you know, middle, then certainly at the high school level. Well, how do we stop that? How do we say that parents, you are important, you are valued through this entire process? Even when we're trying to teach our kids responsibility, right? And the other one, of course, is the clear and consistent message from all DOE personnel, right? As to, they need to value the survey as well. So when they ask families to participate, that value that comes forth, and that there's a reason why we're doing this, and we really value your input, and that has to be consistent. And the consistency also has to be on when it's provided. And I think Catherine also said that, you know, yeah, it might be cool to use the IEP meeting, you know, annual whatever review as that meeting, but a lot of times that's a heavy meeting. And many of our parents are just, you know, you just can't take in any more information. And if you give that to me at the end of a meeting, it's probably going to go in the back somewhere and not get addressed right away. So, you know, you might want to think of other times or other means to make that. I mean, gee, invite us to coffee. No, that I just threw that in. But I mean, you know, it's just keeping it friendly and keeping it meaningful. And I think the biggest thing is that we do appreciate now that the department is willing to take this information and send it back down the pipeline, that you don't just take the information on the survey just so that you can complete the box for the feds and then not do anything about it. So we're hoping that that then is going to translate into actually seeing changes being made at the school level with families, right? That, I mean, that's our hope. So, you know, that's a big one. Getting the information gathered, is it meaningful? Is it valuable? Is it going to be utilized by the schools? Is it going to go from state office to the complex area superintendents, as we've been told, and then to the principals, and then the principals to their schools? Is it going to be part of some kind of performance evaluation so that it remains valuable and something that needs to be focused on, right? So that we can see changes and hopefully see the number of surveys increase, because, you know, less than 10% is like really sad. I mean, we're talking about 20,000 students, right? And you get, I think it was, well, it's actually 7-something%. So 1,447 responses out of 19,900 something responses. That's just like nothing. We have to improve that. But in order to improve it, it has to be valued. It has to be valued and meaningful, right? From Department of Education to the family. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Jasmine. Stephen, can I just add to your list of one of the ways that you can reach out to parents is offer them the opportunity of filling out the survey over the phone.
I
Because a
like
lot
that.
of them
Thank you.
would prefer that method, and
Yeah.
Maxine always had a great response to that. So just add it on there. I want to
Will
be
do.
called by
Thank you.
phone. You're welcome.
It goes onto our Jamboard immediately.
Excellent. Thank you, team 4, group 4. Anybody else for group 4? All right, we're going to move on to group 5. This is secondary transition and post-school outcomes. Heather and Cheryl, you are our reporters.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much. Our group had a really good discussion about data. Our indicator 13 is increasing. It doesn't show like it's increasing a lot, but when we look at the individual components, we're on a very upward trend. So we're super happy to see that. Indicator 14 has risen as well. So we're actually above the national standard for indicator 14, which is excellent. But we want to continue that momentum. Some of the strategies, or all the strategies discussed, were all the initiatives that transition department is doing. It includes our transition assessment initiative, which was creating a website, delivering transition assessment toolkits to all the high schools, and also our school visits. Along with that, we have our current strategy of our school-based enterprise to work-based learning project, which will affect 15 schools this year and continue on. But that's a huge initiative that we have created to ensure that we're actually implementing work-based learning programs to put on our IEPs. So that is a huge project that is gonna be one of our strategies. We have our transition work group that'll be working on our community-based instruction guidelines. We have our CTE and special education work-based learning training together. So we have created the bridge to CTE, and we continue to work on those relationships and train together with that department. We have our Google Classroom for transition resources that reaches the entire state. So all of our teachers can access transition resources whenever they want, and also have direct access to me at state level if they need assistance in providing training and resources to their particular school or district. And then we still have our post-secondary transition website that has resources across the board for our parents and students, our resources and links to our community partners and how to access those services, along with videos from our national collaborative trainings that we've provided through conferences on how to provide and train best practices in transition. So we continue to update that website with events and different things happening for the state. And then some of the concerns that were brought up were still the resources not getting to schools directly, working kind of on how are we explaining what resources are and what's available to our students after they leave us in the DOE, and what does that mean? A lot of it revolves around consultation practice and how we're involving families, you know, in that discussion of what it means when they exit the DOE, and how can we kind of be sensitive to that information, but also provide the best pathway to their individualized plan, and things like that. There was a certificate of completion and diploma discussion. That's always an ongoing discussion of what that means. So one of the strategies that was suggested that we're going to implement this year is creating a statewide video on just the different on what the guidelines mean for that, a checklist to assist the schools in helping them decide that process, and really kind of hone in on what's going on with the consultation piece with that particular subject. So that's something we discussed today. I'm probably missing out a lot of things, but if anyone else wants to jump in, me and Cheryl are we have a huge initiative with our TA and TACT assistants, where we created DVR guidelines that will be released very soon, and we're going to implement training to all the districts on how DOE and DVR streamline their services to better, you know, have a plan for how everyone will deliver those partnership services. So we're really, really excited about that. I'm super thankful to DVR and all of our other interagency partners that were here today. We appreciate you guys working with us side by side. So if there's anything else, Cheryl, you can jump in, but that's all I have for us today.
Okay, thank you so much, Heather. And anybody else from group 5 to share something?
We did talk about a little bit more about providing more information besides just the certificate and the diploma. Because there was a mom there, Kiele Pennington, that said that maybe if we, I mean, that she mentioned different things like an alternative diploma, and I didn't know anything about that, or maybe getting the diploma and taking up to the age 22 in order to get it, and how they can also access DVR services while on diploma and certificate track, and maybe providing all that information at a younger age, so that it's not only presented like the diploma track. Not that it's, I never really got that that answer in terms of what is the goal. Is it a push for a diploma, or is it looking at the assessment of the families? Because I do think if we bring the families together and give them all the options early on, that maybe overall, right, they would be maybe more engaged. And so that would help with group 4, and also provide a little bit more guidance to help what they want to do post-secondary.
Thank you, Michelle, for that extra input. Okay, so nothing else from group 5? Anybody else? Okay, great. And our last one today is group 6. This is the State Systemic Improvement Plan, and we're asking for Amy to report out.
Hey, hi everyone. So just a reminder, our State Systemic Improvement Plan is a results-driven indicator. And what we're looking at is the reading proficiency of our students in 3rd and 4th grade, particularly students who have the eligibility category of SLD, SOL, or OHD. Looking at the data, you know, we really haven't made much progress. So our group predominantly discussed our improvement strategies and what we're doing to try to increase our student growth in reading proficiency in 3rd and 4th grade. We talked about historically the fact that our improvement strategies were a little bit broad, and so there was not much guidance provided to the schools on, you know, what specific evidence-based instructional practices they should be implementing. And then we talked about how we tried to refine our improvement strategies, and 2 main initiatives that we've implemented. One is our language and literacy initiative, which includes Hilo Waiakea, Kauai, and FKK. And what we're really doing is, you know, training up literacy coaches, and then also providing training, intensive training for our special education teachers in effective language and literacy strategies for students in grades K through 3. And so that's really exciting because we'll have campuses that will have teachers who are, you know, really well trained in instruction assessment. And then we also talked about, well, and with that initiative, we're continuing to grow. So next year we're going to include 3 more complex areas, so we can continue to build capacity across the state. We also talked about our reading interventionist program, which we developed in partnership with the UH Manoa Special Education Department. And this is a certification program through International Dyslexia Association, where teachers can become specialists or interventionists. and become certified through taking the CAPERI assessment. And so now we will have reading interventionists located at schools throughout the state as well. Some of the feedback, and anyone else who would like to share, please feel free to jump in if I don't cover all of the feedback. But moving forward, some of the things that we talked about in terms of refining our improvement strategies would be to create a stronger family engagement piece. So moving beyond just having family literacy nights, but maybe one of our improvement strategies could be an ongoing intentional training that occurs with the families on literacy strategies, language and literacy strategies to implement at home. There were questions again about our categories. So, you know, when are we going to consider moving away from SLD, SOL, and OHD and looking at other categories that, you know, might have more significant needs? And the last thing, well, another thing that we talked about was the assessment. So our SIMR uses the Smarter Balanced Assessment to look at student growth. And we know that the Smarter Balanced Assessment is a one-time assessment that is a standardized assessment that, you know, compares students to other students across the nation, when maybe it would be probably more meaningful to provide ongoing, maybe universal screening or progress monitoring assessments for our students, so we could get more meaningful feedback on student growth and more meaningful data on how to refine our instruction or our improvement strategies. And so I think that's it, but anyone else, we had a very nice, lively discussion. So if anyone else wants to share.
Anyone else from group 6? From the assessment, the system improvement. Nope. Thank you so much, Amy. Okay, Martha and Brooke, that is the reporting out for all 6 groups today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, folks. We really, really appreciate. I attended SSIP session, the lively discussions. The only way we can improve is by receiving your feedback, and we appreciate you being here today. I'm going to pass this on to our director, Canio, at this time.
Oh, aloha. I wasn't able to pop into everyone's group. However, the groups that I was able to pop in on, a theme is glaringly clear. You know, our partners, our parents and our partners want to be participating in this effort as equal partners, which to me is the spirit of IDE. So we are not going to keep you until 12, because what we want you to do is right after you hang up, we want you to go to this link here and please, 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 please submit your feedback for our continued efforts in this area. Because the next step, where's our watchdogs? Brikenna, the next step is what?
I love it how you called me the watchdogs. Amanda, would you do me a favor and share the screen on the general overview for the PowerPoint that Helen and Martha and I started with, and then I'll kind of walk you folks through the next steps. Okay, so if you go to the next slide, Amanda. Excellent. Okay, my friends, so we received a lot of feedback today, and what we're going to do, working with SPIN and SEAC, we're going to listen to all the recordings, look at all the notes. If you notice during your presentations and in your sessions, you had a note taker for each of your sessions. So we have taken a ton of notes today. We will combine those feedback, and we will then also, in addition to the feedback that you provided today, we have developed materials for additional feedback for you folks, that you can find them on the website, the link that Helen shared on the chat as well. You can also go to the SEAC website and find the similar materials in there. So share them with everyone in the state. This will be open until January 15th. After January 15th, we will combine all of your feedback, and our obligation is to then document all of your feedback with regards to whether targets need to be revised, whether we had progress or slippage, and whether the current strategies are working, and receiving your new ideas and your strategies. And we're going to document them into our SPP APR document. And before February 1, we're going to then submit them to the federal government. Federal government is going to review the document between February 1 till June. And then by mid of June, they will then send us a grade of how Hawaii is implementing IDEA in all of our schools. When we receive that document, we will then upload it on our website for you folks to review. And every year we then have a meeting with SEAC where we have you folks come in and we'll explain what worked, what didn't work, how did we do, and what do we need to do better. Again, like Helen said, the spirit of IDEA is all about working with our families and communities. So we appreciate you folks being here today. We cannot thank you enough for taking the time to be here. I think that's it for us, folks. Anything else from Martha?
Thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry, this is Kupu again. So this meeting was until 12, but we're leaving, we're ending now, so that you can click on this link and provide additional feedback. Okay. Appreciate all of you so very much. There are no words. So just mahalo for being here, and have a great time submitting your feedback, and then have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you for your
Awesome. Thank you,
time.
guys.
And Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Or happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. Thank you.
We'll see you at the January SEAC meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.